If you're in the United States, have visited the States, or have even heard of the States, then you've probably heard a lot of chatter about restricting U.S. citizenship. Soundbite.
I said we will get the criminals out, the drug lords, the gang members, we're getting them out.
I came here when I was 3 years old. I was raised here, so why am I any less American than they are?
The debate over who should get to be a citizen isn't new. Hey guys, I'm Imaeyen, and this Sunday on AJ+, we're talking about today's immigration debate, U.S. citizenship, and who's historically been excluded. Spoiler alert, it wasn't white men.
That I will bear true faith
Paul?
of the United States of America.
There are a few ways you can get U.S. citizenship. If one or both of your parents have it, then you most likely qualify. Or you can be naturalized if you're eligible. So if you marry a U.S. citizen, or if you've been an immigrant with permanent resident status for 5 years, then this would be your path. Or you can be born on U.S. soil, and that's called birthright citizenship. It doesn't matter what your parents' immigration status is, and not everybody is cool with that. Critics say it encourages undocumented immigrants to come to the States and give birth here so that their children can get citizenship. We spoke to Peter Spiro, a law professor at Temple University who specializes in immigration and constitutional law. He dispelled a common myth about the children of undocumented immigrants.
An individual who's born here to undocumented parents cannot turn around and secure legal status for the parents until the child turns 21. So it's a myth that so-called anchor baby who's born here can immediately secure legal status for his or her parent.
He says that a stronger critique of birthright citizenship is that it encourages birth tourism. You know, traveling to the U.S. specifically to have a baby and then maybe just staying here for a few days. And the people who do that are paying the big bucks.
These individuals don't fit any stereotype of an undocumented alien. In fact, they enter the country legally. There are actually hospitals that sell packages for such individuals, so they take care of immigration.
But he says the numbers are relatively small, maybe in the tens of thousands, compared with the estimated hundreds of thousands of children born to undocumented immigrants. The real debate centers on them. This isn't really new, though. Disagreements over who gets to be a U.S. citizen are almost as old as the nation itself. In the early 18th century, you had to have lived in the U.S. for 2 years and be of good moral character before you could become a citizen. But that only applied to free white persons. If you weren't white, you couldn't become a citizen. Since then, winning citizenship rights for people of color has been an uphill struggle. The infamous Dred Scott decision, aka the Supreme Court's worst decision ever, played a big role in the black fight for recognition. So here's the backstory. Scott was born into slavery in Virginia. His owner took him to Illinois and the Wisconsin Territory, which were both free states. Scott tried to buy his freedom after his owner died, but they wouldn't let him. So he took legal action. In 1857, he took his case to the Supreme Court. The court decided that because he was black, he was not a citizen, and therefore had no standing to sue in federal court. It also confirmed the principle that slaves were property, not people. And that decision stood until after the Civil War, when the Reconstruction era introduced the 14th Amendment. The amendment says anyone born on U.S. soil is a citizen. This was the first time citizenship as a birthright was officially enshrined into the Constitution. And that meant the recently freed slaves got citizenship. But the struggle for citizenship for people of color didn't end there. The Chinese Exclusion Act closed our borders to Chinese laborers. And if they were already settled in America, it made them permanent aliens by excluding them from citizenship. But the Supreme Court decision, United States versus Wong Kim Ark, changed all that. It upheld the 14th Amendment, deciding that the Exclusion Act couldn't overrule the citizenship of people born in the U.S. Since the ruling, anyone born in the U.S. to foreign parents has to be given U.S. citizenship, regardless of their parents' nationality or immigration status. But it's the country's first residents who'd be the last to be granted birthright citizenship on a federal level. Obviously, I'm talking about Native Americans. They were the last to get this right when President Calvin Coolidge finally signed the Indian Citizenship and Nationality Act in 1924. That was nearly 60 years after the 14th Amendment's ratification. We talked a lot about race restrictions on birthright citizenship, but what about when it comes to restrictions on naturalization? That finally became illegal in 1952 when Congress passed the Immigration and Nationality Act. Since then, The laws regarding citizenship and naturalization have remained largely unchanged. But it's not like legislators haven't tried. Congress has introduced legislation to scale back birthright in every session for the last 20 years. Both Republicans and Democrats have introduced a number of bills intended to restrict children of undocumented immigrants born in the U.S. from becoming citizens. In fact, even Trump's administration includes skeptics of birthright citizenship. But don't get ahead of yourselves. These proposals haven't made much headway, and Professor Spiro doesn't think they will anytime soon.
It pretty clearly requires an amendment to the Constitution of the United States. The probability of the administration being able to secure the supermajority approval that's required for a constitutional amendment is virtually nil.
Birthright is here to stay, and race-based restrictions on who can naturalize are gone. So we're good, right? Everybody's happy. Not exactly. Policymakers still restrict who can and can't become a citizen. They just do it using immigration laws. If you can't get permanent residency status, it makes it a lot harder to naturalize and become a citizen. Take undocumented immigrants, for example. There are an estimated 11 million of them living in the U.S., with half of them coming from Mexico, and 78% of them have lived here in the U.S. for 10 years or longer. A lot of undocumented immigrants moved here as children, over 1 million. And despite working, paying taxes, and starting families here, they have no path to citizenship. Remember, if you're a permanent resident, you can apply to naturalize after just 5 years. During former President Obama's campaign, he promised to pass the DREAM Act, which would have created a path to citizenship for undocumented immigrants who arrived here before the age of 16. But he faced hard opposition in Congress. The DREAM Act never passed. So what's the chance immigration reform could happen under Trump? He's used friendlier language towards the Dreamers recently, but anti-immigration constituencies are big Trump supporters. Can he really afford to alienate them? And if there's no immigration reform, what does that mean for the future of undocumented immigrants in this country? Birthright citizenship is actually pretty uncommon across the globe. In fact, only 33 nations have it. Why do you think that is? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.